Oh, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back again. Sorry for keeping you waiting, but I had to do what I have to do. So, let's carry on. I mentioned that in business we commonly speak about capital, and without realizing it, we emphasize mainly only on economic capital, and we do not realize that there are other forms of capital. But like I said before we broke off, there is three forms of capital. You have economic capital, which is the common form of capital. From the sociological point of view, you have other forms of capital, which are cultural capital and social capital, excuse me. So I'll give a brief background about some sociologists who kind of expounded, a bit about these forms of capital in society. To everything there is a development, so there's some kind of historical background to its development. So somebody, a scientist called Bourdieu, I don't know how these French names, but I'll just call him Bourdieu, was a social scientist, and he stated the following, and I quote: "Life is one of an endless tension between relations of power, and that it should be made apparent that the power and dominance of the elite groups is often exercised over others." So life is an endless tension, tug of war. Between relations, different relations of power, and that these relations of power are used by the elite to dominate, other individuals or groups. So if there were no tensions, right, in society, if there are no tensions of relations or in relations, then there would be no hierarchies. Okay, we move on. The same man discussed the concept, three main concepts, as an attempt to bring into the highlight the concept of capital. Don't forget, our focus is on capital. The first concept that he discussed is called habitus. Now, habitus, according to him, refers to the context in which people are born and live through, and as a result, the ways in which their attitudes, actions, expectations, and dispositions are shaped by such contexts and social conditions. So there is a context. Every time a person is born, there's a context around that person. That person is born within a context. So the context, for example, an example I can give you about the context is that at that particular time, the things that are going on at that particular time, whether the family is living in poverty or in riches, whether there is sickness in the family, in ongoing sickness, not just like some incidents which just passes, whether the political environment external, things external to the family, whether the political environment is one of prosperity or it's one of gloom and what's negative expectation, pessimism, whether the economy is doing fine or not, whether the general population is well educated or poor and backward, uneducated, and so on. All those things, when you put them together, because they affect how other things work, whether they work well or they don't work well. At the end of the day, they affect even the ability of your family to bring food to the table. That is a context, and this scientist calls that a habitus. And because you are born in that environment, in that kind of context, you are born into it. So it affects what you can expect, out of your efforts, out of your parents' efforts, out of the neighbors' efforts, out of everybody else's efforts. It affects even the way you look at the world. You will be thinking that the world is poor because you are in that environment. So there is that habitus. So the social conditions and all those things are surrounding you determine, they play a very strong role in shaping what you can expect, what you can set as goals, because obviously you're not going to set goals to achieve certain things which you have not seen being achieved by anybody in that kind of context. So it will decide how high or how low your goals can be set. Bourdieu emphasized that individuals do maintain a level of creativity and certain room for maneuver, but only within the context permitted by this habitus. So how creative you can be in a given environment depends on, the advancement or backwardness of that environment, or possibilities or lack of possibilities in that environment. That's what he's trying to say. And then the extent to which people are free to indulge in a range of practices or activities is determined by the extent of the interplay between habitus, capital, and field. So he introduces two more concepts. There is the concept of habitus, which is the context in which you are born, in which you are raised, and in which your opinions, ideas, and whatever ambitions are formed. And then now he goes on to introduce another concept called capital. Okay? And he says that the extent to which people can be free to indulge in a range of practices or activities or possibilities depends on the interaction between that context in which you are born and the capital which prevails, how much capital, the level of capital that prevails in that context. And also the other concept he calls field, which I will really not go into at this stage. So how much you can do or achieve depends on your context and also what's available in that context. And how much that context actually interacts with capital. You see, when I was born, there was a lot of possibility, very high possibility. But because of my context, I didn't realize that there was so much, possibilities